The family court. There was a quote from your book here. The object of this peculiar government underworld are not criminals. The objects of family court, they're not criminals, but ordinary parents and children, law-abiding citizens who find themselves forced into a quasi-criminal and even criminal proceedings, often through, quote, no fault, and I'm sure that there was a meaning behind that, no fault of their own, by a Kafkaesque system of mock justice that operates by its own rules, separate from constitutional order, largely in secret, and with almost no oversight or accountability. Due process does not take place. Perjury is freely permitted. You can be found guilty of who knows what. Your husband or your wife may not be happy. So now, because he or she is not happy, maybe the reason he or she is not happy is because you don't want him or her running around with somebody else, and you get punished. I mean, this is the craziest, most absurd, most unjust system that can be imagined. And if you go through this thing, you start to, I question, look, I'm a law-abiding citizen, but what I see what happens in family courts, I don't trust justice anymore at all.
No.
It seems like every aspect of our government, even sometimes the police, are, and I don't want to speak in conspiratorial terms either, but they're almost part of the machinery. Mm. There are laws made to do just what you're saying, to put people through mock trials, to find people who've done nothing wrong, to make them guilty of something. And then what happens in many of these instances, I don't think people realize how devastating it is emotionally and financially. You get people that police can come to your house and just kick you out of your house. You say, what did I do? Well, we have an accusation. Really? And the police will force you out of your house. And you have, I've known of people that have gone bankrupt, people that have lost their houses, and people that have committed suicide, both men and women, because of this whole thing. Largely in secret with almost no oversight or accountability. When you ask for it, you're looked at like you're the crazy person. Mm. Do you have anything further to say about that? Or, I mean, am I just making this all up?
Oh, no. This is a legal underworld. Some people have described it as a system of organized crime. Mm-hmm. And it's really what it is. I mean, we've devised a system that is so unjust and we've done so little to bring it under control, that we've gotten in the situation where the criminals are sitting on the bench wearing black robes, mm-hmm. sentencing the law-abiding citizens to time in jail. Mm-hmm. There's no two ways about it. The mm-hmm. crooks are on the bench, mm-hmm. and the innocent people are in the docket or in the jails.
Right. I've seen this happen as well. A man will leave his wife for another man, or a woman will leave her husband for another woman, and will go to the courts, and because they have lawyered up, they're using no-fault divorce, but somehow they get custody of the children. Mm-hmm. They really just want to be happy with their own new sexually found preference. They get the kids. The innocent spouse who's thinking, if I just tell the truth, of course they're going to rule in my favor. And that's one of the most naive thoughts that we have at this point. And then this person now has to end up paying child support. And by the way, if you don't pay child support, you can either lose your driver's license, your professional license, you may have your vehicle registration denied, and if you don't pay your passport, that was a part that got me. You can't even travel outside the country.
As in the Soviet Union?
Absolutely.
You can't leave the country.
Right. And thrown into jail.
Without trial.
Without trial, mm-hmm. because the Attorney General says, we've got to collect this child support. Right. And you aren't paying it, you're in contempt of court. I had a friend of mine, and Stephen, this is, he had a son that he loves that has Down syndrome. His ex-wife lawyered up, had all the money, completely broke him. He cannot even see his son that he loves, and his son with Down syndrome that loves him can't see him, and he got thrown into jail. He said, Jeff, I got thrown into jail. I've been in there 3 times. I was in there for 3 weeks. First day going into jail, there is some teenage kid who sasses back a guard. The guard picked him up, body slammed him. They took him out on a stretcher. And he says, what am I going to do? I'm in jail because I can't afford to pay child support. And because I've been so broken. And I know that you probably have heard story after story after story like this.
Well, yes. I mean, my book has examples of precisely that.
Right.
Cases where, when you put law-abiding citizens into jail with criminals, they usually don't last very long. So this is an amazing abuse of authority. We are using the jails as a kind of private collection system for a system of really what amounts to organized crime.
So when I went through, I had divorce forced on me. It was another one of these, unilateral, no fault divorce, and it was completely crazy. But I thought to myself, I almost wish that I were accused of rape or murder, because at least at that point, you're supposed to have a presumption of innocence. And I could at least present some type of evidence to say, wait a minute, I didn't do any of this stuff. When you go into divorce court or family court, you're guilty no matter what the evidence is. In fact, everybody can agree that you're innocent. I could have gotten 25 people up there that said this divorce should not take place, and the judge would have said, you're divorced. I went to see my ex-wife's attorney, and this is, I'm telling you, this is what happened. She had already told the attorney that she was at fault for the problems in our marriage. She also told him I was one of the best men that she knew. I go into his office because this whole thing was so crazy. And the attorney tells me, Mr. Morgan, you're getting a divorce and there's nothing you can do about it. But the other thing is that she told him she was at fault, and now she's filing for no fault against me, and he became part of the criminal machinery. And I'm sure, again, you've heard a lot of stories like this.
Well, the divorce machinery and the divorce law introduced all kinds of novel concepts into the legal system, which are now spreading throughout the legal system and poisoning it. And the font of this poison is the divorce system. And previously in the common law, it was a well-known principle that you couldn't be hauled into court unless you'd done some legal transgression.
Right.
That if you're a law-abiding citizen, you have the right to sit in your own home and mind your own business.
Right.
The divorce machinery, the no-fault system, introduced the principle that an innocent citizen, a legally unimpeachable citizen, sitting in his own home, minding his own business, can be hauled into court and can be issued with a series of directives, which, if he does not obey, he can be jailed without trial. Now, this is a complete innovation in the common law. Another innovation is, as you say, the principle that the outcome is already determined.
Yeah.
It can't be changed. Once someone files for the divorce is granted. Now, this is not a judicial procedure. This is an administrative procedure. This can be done by bureaucrats, and this turns the judges into bureaucrats because they're not making a judgment. They're simply administering a procedure. So they're not judges anymore. They're not judicial officials. They're effectively simply functionaries who are pushing one piece of paper across the table as the law says they have to do. Well, this is to devalue, to debase our entire system of justice. It is to replace justice with injustice. And there's no middle ground. You can't replace justice with neutral administrative procedures. Once you eliminate justice from the legal system, you introduce injustice. And that's what we have. We have a system where the judges and the lawyers are dedicated, almost without any choice, to enforce injustice. And in many ways, the lawyers and the judges are also prisoners of the system. It's very easy to blame the judges, and certainly, I think it's, they're certainly responsible for a lot of
Right.
chicanery. But in some ways, the judges also are prisoners of the system, and so are the lawyers. If they did otherwise than what they do, they would be disbarred. The bar associations, the feminist organizations would come after them, and they have done that in some cases, and they would remove them from the bench.